Hi, Misha here, and I have a new edition from Eaglemoss. This is one I've definitely been waiting on for a while. This is in their bonus collection, and this is a concept model Klingon D4. And this is one of those times when I definitely think this should just be Canon, because it will correct an issue that everyone knew existed in Enterprise, and they just let slide. In Episode 5 of Season 1, Unexpected, the second time we meet the Klingons, and the first time we see a Klingon Battlecruiser in the series, in the year 2151, they did not show a new model. They did not even show a D7 from TOS, which would have been out of place, but okay. They actually inserted a CGI Katinga, originally made for background battle scenes, Deep Space Nine. So a low-res Katinga was inserted into a series that took place over 100 years before the original series, and the Katinga itself we first see in the motion picture, so post-original series. And we still see these flying in Deep Space Nine, so we can imagine that in 2270-something, this was the cutting-edge Klingon ship. So the fact that it would have been around in 2151 is just not even anything. And even back in 2001 when the episode aired, people knew this was wrong. So how it happened? Well, the story behind this model is probably more interesting than the model itself. The model, you can tell, is very much inspired by the Katinga or the D7. But it has many of the elements we would expect from the Enterprise era Klingon ships, like the kind of open-ended nacelles, the kind of extra tubing and struts and supports along the neck. Yeah, over here I've got the D5 and the bird of prey from the 22nd century, and you can observe a similar design aesthetic, especially with the engines. But these two would not appear till Season 2. In Season 1, we got a completely out-of-place Katinga. But not for want of trying. Fresh off of Voyager, and also making new ships for the pilot episode, and a few other ships for the first couple of episodes of Enterprise, John Eves and his design team were told that they needed a Klingon ship for the episode pretty much with no time or notice. But, being troopers, they rose to the challenge. They drafted something. Eves pretty much came up with this aesthetic of more primitive looking than the original Klingon ships, but still very Klingon. Sent it over to Foundation Imaging, where Rob Bonchoon's team hastily converted it into made it into a CGI model from the sketches, including working unpaid overtime, so basically did it for free. And they submitted it to the producers for the episode entitled Unexpected. They liked the design, but sent it back saying it needs more windows. The reason John Eves didn't put many windows in the original concept was because the original series, D7, did not have many windows either. So he was trying to kind of honor that What few windows he did put in were small porthole type windows, and they were actually kind of more of a red color because we've seen the inside of Klingon ships and it's usually reddish. So obviously the light from them would be red. So there weren't many windows, and then when it was converted over to a CGI model, the few windows that were there pretty much disappeared because we're, standard definition TV 2001. The producers said, we like it, go back, redo the model, add more windows. And exhausted, and can you keep in mind this whole model was done for free, they pretty much told them to fuck off. And so instead of accepting the very good quality model that they were given, okay, maybe it was lacking windows, but, one small flaw for a television episode, the producers, in kind of a childish fit, just inserted a Katinga. And they claim that they didn't think Star Trek fans would notice. Now, granted, that was kind of pre the internet. I mean, we had internet back then, of course, but it's not like today. But even then, people noticed. I think a D7 would have been scoffed at, but a little bit accepted. But a Katinga, no. They might as well just put it in a Vorcha just to say, screw you. So it was a complete disservice to the fans, to the design team led by Eves, to the CGI production team led by Bon Chun, to the series itself, to everyone. And also, a couple of producers could kind of assert their dominance early on in the series. And everyone hated it. And most fans really liked the John Eves design when it started to come out. And it has appeared in several pieces of media over the years. In kind of Starship guides, calendars, even in Star Trek Online. So the fans obviously support this design. And I think most all of us, just in our head canon, this is what appears in Episode 5, Season 1 of Enterprise. I mean, the lines are the same, so, yeah. If you subscribe to the theory that Enterprise was kind of a holodeck novel, it was just a holodeck error. But anyway. Hopefully, if they ever do like a Enterprise remastered, they'll put this in its place. They really should. Normally, I don't like changing stuff, but this has to happen. So when Eaglemoss announced they were doing a physical model of this, it was just great. It fits right in. Typical Klingon construction. And a neat model. Speaking of names, Eves just called this the Battlecruiser Retro, or the Klingon Battlecruiser Retro. It was actually at Foundation Imaging that the name D4 first was applied, which fits well in. I mean, the D7 is well established from the original series, and even in Deep Space Nine, we hear talk of a D5, so we knew there was a D5. Later on, it gets used. So a D4 is perfectly logical. Now, some may know the name D4 was later used in Star Trek Into Darkness for something more like a bird of prey. That's neither here nor there. That's an alternative universe, so whatever. And actually, this cruiser itself was reused to some extent when John Eves worked on Star Trek 2009, when we saw Klingon battlecruisers in the Kobayashi Maru scene. It's kind of an interesting little thing. It's not the same design, but yeah, it has elements. Now, I will say this. This early misstep in Enterprise, in a way, was good. Fan reaction and reaction of pretty much everyone was so overwhelmingly negative that by the time of Season 2, when they did the episode Judgment and others when the D5 was around, when they first were, planning this, they again wanted to go cheap and just kind of reuse an existing model. And this time enough people put their foot down. And so we ended up with multiple new Klingon ships in the Enterprise series. The D5 here, the so-called early bird of prey, and then actually several others, including a transport, a cargo freighter. I think this early misstep is actually why Enterprise ultimately ended up having so many alien ships that were unique to that series. So to some extent they learned from their mistakes and did not repeat them. So, something at least good came from it. And that's really about it. Again, aside from just, saying this was a predecessor to the D5, an early Klingon battlecruiser, we don't know any specs, really. I mean, it looks to be about as large as anything else, but we don't get a lot of specs on Klingon ships in general. So, but it's definitely a neat model. The body, as most Klingon ships, is metal, with all the little extensions and nacelles being the plastic bits. Again, this isn't a regular subscription, this is a special, but I definitely bought this as soon as it was on the website. Alrighty folks, that's all I've got for this one. Any questions or comments, or if you want to talk about idiotic moves that American business makes, let's do it in the comments. This is Misha, and I'll catch you very soon next time.